So the last couple of days of politics in this country have been basically revolving around Labour Party's decision to suspend 4 of its MPs over persistent knobheadery, is the term that's been used by Labour Party sources spoke to Kate McCann from Times Radio. Their justification was that people have been too eager to disobey the whip on certain issues. Now, the first 4 MPs to be suspended were Neil Duncan-Jordan for Poole, who voted against things like the welfare bill. We had Chris Hinchcliffe, who wanted reforms on planning to protect nature and to focus on social housing. Felt a little bit NIMBY to me, but I think that protecting nature and prioritising social house building are good things. There was Brian Leishman, who was a Scottish MP who would oppose them over shutting down the Grangemouth refinery and also on referring on the welfare bill, and Rachel Maskell, the MP for York Central, who was one of the ringleaders for the rebellion over welfare reform, who tabled the second reasoned amendment after Dame Meg Hilliers to try and kill the bill in its inception. So these people were suspended, and I did a whole rundown of how angry I was about this on Novara Media. I'll put the link in the description for you to be able to watch that in your own time. But safe to say, I wasn't best pleased, and my main point, to go over it again now, is that this is the sign of a weak man. Keir Starmer is a weak man with weak leadership, and quite frankly, it's his own fault, and it's his leadership team's own fault that they didn't bother trying to get at least some kind of consensus from MPs broadly within the party before trying to pass legislation that was, again, depraved. Quite frankly, 100% depraved, and there's a reason why people didn't support a lot of these bills, you know? The Labour Party is supposed to be a broad church. The Labour Party is supposed to be representing the Labour movement, not be a single vanity project for one man and his leadership team, which is what it seems to be being treated like under Keir Starmer. Now we've also found out that Diane Abbott has been suspended as well, again. And basically because of the same issue, in that previously she wrote a letter into The Observer where she claimed that Jewish people and Romani people didn't experience racism because it was a kind of prejudice, but not the kind of racism that is felt by people who have a different skin colour, which is basically, like, sort of true. I think that basically the line she went with essentially was that they don't experience racism, but I think the rejigging of that is they experience a different kind of racism, right? So Diane Abbott has had the whip suspended because she spoke to Radio 4's Reflections programme on Thursday, where she said, clearly there must be a difference between racism, which is about colour, and other types of racism because you can't see a traveller or Jewish person walking down the street you don't know. I just think that it's silly to try and claim that racism, which is about skin colour, is the same as other types of racism. I don't know why people would say that. There's nothing controversial about what she's saying there. Now, the original comment that she made was this, which I think is wrong, where she says that people like Irish, Jewish and traveller people suffer from racism, but they undoubtedly experience prejudice. This is similar to racism, and the two words are often used as if they're interchangeable. But this is essentially almost implying that Jewish and traveller people don't experience racism. I think she was right to retract this, but rejigging that to be about the fact that they're both racism, but they're different kinds of racism. One is based on skin colour. There's a colorism about anti-black and anti-brown racism that isn't directed as Jewish people. That's not controversial. It's not controversial in the slightest for her to say so, right? Not controversial at all. And the reality, of course, is that actually the kind of racism that is faced by Jewish people is actually very different to a lot of other kinds of racism, because a lot of racism is based upon the idea of superiority, like we're superior to black people if they're a white supremacist, right? But that's not the kind of racism that a lot of Jewish people face. A lot of anti-Jewish racism, a lot of Jew hate is about perceived strength, right? They consider them to be a threat because of their perceived levels of power, right? It's why you get a lot of anti-Jewish conspiracy theories that are about how powerful they are. Obviously no truth to any of these claims, right? But they are treated as being a fifth column because they're perceived to be powerful, rather than black and brown people who are perceived to be a lack of power, who are perceived to be inferior, right? There's a difference in the kind of racism that it is, and understanding the differences between these kinds of racism and the kind of ways in which they manifest, right? You can see immediately if someone's black or brown. The same isn't true for Jewish people, for example. So it is absolutely a different kind of racism, but it is still racism. So it was absolutely right for her to retract the original statement where she implied that there wasn't racism when it was prejudice against Jewish people, when it is. They're an ethno-religious group, right? But is it a different kind of racism? Absolutely, right? So the fact that she's been suspended again for what are now completely uncontroversial comments, and I said basically this thing at the time when she was suspended, the comments that they don't experience racism were wrong, but the different kinds of racism, about this colorism, is perfectly reasonable, that statement that she made, right? And they're just purging the left. That's exactly what they're doing, right? They just want to take out left-wingers. It's as simple as that. Now, a bunch of MPs in the Labour Party and a bunch of Labour Party members have come out to defend the suspension of these MPs, right? One One such person who's come out against it is Jess Phillips, friend of the show. And this is what she said when she was interviewed by ITV News about the suspended MPs.
Look, I think that all Labour MPs are there to work for their constituents, and there is a way to do it. Obviously, these are decisions for the Chief Whip, and I'm not across the detail of how many times these people have been spoken to or the disciplinary procedures at all, and for that I am grateful. But, we have to act as a team. These people were elected as Labour MPs, so the idea that somehow they care more about their constituents than others is something that I would heavily push back on.
Here's Jess Phillips talking about the Labour MPs who lost the whip on Sky News this time.
You know, they will say they are persistently standing up for what they think are Labour values.
Oh, well, of course they will say that.
And they're all on the left wing of the party. Is this some sort of eradication
but we were
move by the Prime
elected
Minister?
as a team under a banner and under a manifesto, and we have to seek to work together. And if you are acting in a manner that is to undermine the ability of the government to deliver those things, I don't know what you expect.
And that's what's so tilting to me, is that this seems to be a common theme. It's that, well, you're elected as Labour, therefore you have to vote what the Labour whip tells you to do, right? And I'm like, well, first of all, they were elected on the manifesto for the Labour Party, which didn't say anything about things such as, I don't know, depraved cuts to welfare for the disabled. In fact, the manifesto said the opposite. It said that the Labour Party would have the disabled at the heart of everything that they do and listen to their voices, which it is not doing because they continually ignored every recommendation about the welfare bill from disabled charities who explicitly condemned what they were trying to do and pushed back unilaterally, right? So actually, the Labour MPs who are voting against it, who tried to bring down the welfare reform bill, are the ones that are actually voting in Parliament, not just on the needs of their constituents, but on the manifesto that they were elected on. Second of all, is that if all you're doing as a Labour MP is to represent the interests of the rosette that next to your name on the ballot paper rather than the individual instances of what people need in your own constituency, because you're a constituency MP. You're not elected on a list of Labour candidates. It's not proportional representation. There is a constituency link. That's the whole point of first past the post, right? Like, Jess Phillips is not a Labour MP for anywhere. She is the Labour MP for Birmingham Yardley, meaning she's there to represent her constituents specifically. So the idea that having the whip withdrawn is something that is justified in these instances is completely nonsensical, especially when they have a giant majority. If something is so morally indefensible that you can't pass it with a giant majority, then that's a you problem as a leadership team. And what's funny, right, is if Jess Phillips says, well, you have to vote along with a party whip, otherwise there'll be consequences because you're elected as a Labour MP and that should come above your constituents. It's quite funny then that Jess Phillips, when she was interviewed by Femi about proportional representation, explicitly said that she wanted to be the Birmingham Yardley MP and not just a Labour MP for anywhere.
I agree, the system needs changing, but there needs to be a huge amount of work that's done on exactly what that change to our democracy is, because I don't want to be a Labour MP, I want to be the Labour MP for Birmingham Yardley, and there has to be the link between a constituency member of Parliament and their constituents. My constituents can come in and see me. I'm not giving it up. I don't want to do the job without that.
Even if it means the majority of people's votes don't count.
So there she's explicitly saying she doesn't want to be a Labour MP. She wants to be an individual MP representing her constituency with her own values.
Her opposition to proportional representation was the idea that she wants to be the constituency MP. And here she is being completely hypocritical by saying that, well, actually what's really important is doing what the Labour Party want you to do and not representing your constituents. So she's a total hypocrite. And it's not just this that makes her a hypocrite either. She's not much of a team player either, is she? Does this look like team playing to you? Jess Phillips saying that she was willing to stab Jeremy Corbyn in the front, not the back? Just like every other one of the moderate Labour MPs. Did they act as a team when the membership elected Jeremy Corbyn as leader? No, in fact, they used their pretty limited positions of authority as members of the PLP to undermine the leadership and every single member who elected that leadership and who continued to support him, right? It's not like Keir Starmer, who got elected on lies and doesn't really have the confidence of the Labour membership anymore, even though that they've expelled people who really hate him, right? If there was another leadership election, Keir Starmer wouldn't win it. Labour tried to oust Jeremy Corbyn and he was elected with an even bigger majority the second time round, right? So the PLP were explicitly in opposition to the membership at this time, right? So to try and say that you're playing team players as Labour Party members when this is what you've previously said about Labour leaderships that you didn't like is such monumental, mind-blowing, space-time continuum warping hypocrisy, right? It's so hypocritical on multiple levels, right? Would you believe, chat, this is not the only instance of Jess Phillips being a total hypocrite over the need for party unity? I wonder what you think happened, chat, when Boris Johnson suspended Conservative MPs for not voting for his Brexit deal, right? I wonder what Boris Johnson did. I wonder what Jess Phillips' opinion of Boris Johnson was when he sacked MPs and suspended them for voting against the Brexit deal. Should we have a watch? Should we have a look, shall we?
It's just a shame that quite a lot of the people who are sat in front of me, who know what has happened over the last 2 days is wrong, are too cowardly to actually say to me in here, in public, what they're all saying in the tea rooms. You know what has happened over here. Getting rid, it's as if we were kicking out Harriet Harman. That is what it feels like. It is an abomination the way your party has behaved. Absolutely. It is and you've all crowed and given sympathy to me about the problems that we have in the Labour Party, and you've just sat by silently while your colleagues have been marched out.
Some pretty strong words there from Jess Phillips about people rebelling over the Brexit deal that they had concerns over for their constituents, isn't it? Isn't it weird how you've got to be a team player and you can't rebel against putting hundreds of thousands of disabled people into fucking poverty, right, Jess? Yet when it's something like, oh, well, the Brexit deal wasn't quite nice enough, and then suddenly, oh, it's an abomination how you've behaved. When it's about Brexit, oh, no, the relationship with the European Union, that's really important, right, isn't it? Oh, but sorry, disabled people, they can go fuck themselves. You're not a team player, right? I'm sorry, she's just a monumental hypocrite. Just like every single one of these Labour moderate centrist types, every single time, they have no principles, no beliefs, and they will try and browbeat other people only for the reasons of power, right? She will be more sympathetic to Conservative MPs rebelling over issues slightly changing what the Brexit deal looks like than she would be of her own MPs voting against putting hundreds of thousands of disabled people into poverty. Hundreds of thousands of disabled people into poverty, right? No, but Brexit, the European Union, that's what's precious to her. It's so hypocritical. It's so monumentally hypocritical. She is everything that sucks about the Labour Party. She is everything that is wrong with the Labour Party. Everything that is wrong with the Labour Party. Literally describing it as an abomination because they had different opinions over Brexit deals. And then, of course, trying to get these things through Parliament was what the Conservative Party was having trouble with, that left them politically out in the cold, right? Like, the issue with the Brexit deal is that Brexit impasse was undermining the Conservative Party's appeal to the electorate when they were in government. And I'm like, well, isn't that what Keir Starmer believes about people who are trying to block the passage of the welfare reform bill? I'm sure that's what Keir Starmer believed, the same thing that Boris Johnson believes, right? But turns out MPs have consciences. MPs have things and red lines that they think aren't worth crossing. Although I think that the lives of hundreds of thousands of disabled people are probably a little bit more important than whether or not we have exactly the relationship that you want with the European Union post-Brexit. But of course, again, it's all about who she believes is a valid target. That's it, right? And if you're on the Labour right, if you're a Labour moderate, a Labour centrist, you have endless amounts of string, endless amounts of benefit of the doubt. But if you're somebody who Jess Phillips doesn't like, whether you're a Tory or whether you're somebody from the Labour left, that's when she starts throwing the toys out of the pram. It's as simple as that. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for memberships. It's just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.